Vladimir Putin is reportedly furious at the sinking of their landing ship in Crimea, and he has some terrible fates in store for the commanders that failed him. Is Putin making his full Darth Vader turn? We're going to break it down right now. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's do it. Okay, so this is actually originally reported by the Times in the UK, but there's been a few other sources that appear to have corroborated this, and reportedly Putin is absolutely furious that his landing ship has been destroyed by Ukrainian forces. Now, we've also got a ton more details about this attack that have just emerged. First off, the ship wasn't full of just regular old munitions. It was actually full of Shahed drones. And Shahed drones, you guys probably know, are the premier drones that Russia uses for its deep strike missions. As you can see here, this is a Shahed 129. I think actually the Shahed series includes, let's see, a 149, which is closer, but then there's also, let's see if we can find it here. Yeah, the Shahed 136. This is, I think, most representative of what was on that aircraft. And you can see that it has a loitering munition. This is to say a slow-moving warhead, right? Sort of like a budget cruise missile. And as you can see, it costs only between 10 and 50,000 euros, which is like $10,000 to $50,000. And these are such valuable tools for Russia because they've largely expended their own cruise missile arsenals, meaning that the only way they can strike deep into Ukrainian territory is with these Shaheds. Not only that, but Putin's relationship with Iran and his few other allies is very fraught. So he's sacrificed quite a bit politically to get his hands on some of this military hardware. Then to see it get cooked off by a Ukrainian cruise missile is infuriating to him. Not only that, but reportedly, we know that the missile was fired by an Su-24 Ukrainian fighter jet. And of course, supposedly it was actually a British cruise missile launched from this Sukhoi 24, which itself is sort of a fascinating study. And like we talked about, I thought initially it may be F-16 fighters, but that's not true. My other guess was that because Ukraine knew that F-16s were coming onto the battlefield, that they could be riskier with the airframes they did have. And the Su-24 is definitely an airframe where they can take some risk, right? It is a older model developed that took its first flight over 50 years ago. A very, very call sign fencer, right? It's a hard-working aircraft, but it's very, very, very old as far as an airframe. So bear that in mind, that if you're going to undertake a high-risk mission, and you're going to have new modern airframes coming in, relatively speaking, you're going to want to expend some of your least modern airframes. And the Sukhoi 24 is definitely in line with that thesis. So having taken out all of these Shahed drones, the report indicates that also around 100 Russian sailors were also KIA in this attack. But the real story here is Putin. And according to some sources, he is absolutely furious that the warship has sunk. And in response, first, he has ordered raids across occupied Crimea in an attempt to hunt down Ukrainian partisans that he believes provided the Ukrainians with intelligence on the location of this ship, or more accurately, probably the timing, right? Someone told the Ukrainians that this valuable landing ship was not just docked, but was loaded with very, very valuable Shahed drones. So someone leaked it, and Putin has apparently sent his special police across Crimea to try to hunt down who may have done it. Local residents, according to a telegram associated with the Crimean resistance, have said, quote, local residents have been raided throughout the city. Their smartphones are being taken away and their houses are being searched. Now, that's not enough for Putin. He's also, of course, enacted a brutal punishment on those Crimean air defense commanders who let this Su-24 into Crimean airspace. And frankly, if you stay till the end, we're actually going to break down where I think these commanders are going to end up. First, so these commanders of these air defense forces reportedly are being demoted and sent to assault groups to participate in frontline duty in the most brutal sectors, in the most mistreated units on the entire war. So their likely lifespan is probably measured in weeks at this point. Now, in classic Russian fashion, of course, they are denying that any sailors were killed in this. They report that one port worker was KIA, but that the remaining 100 or so sailors on this vessel likely will be filed as missing in action, and if their relatives are lucky, they'll be able to get benefits through the courts, and if they are able to get them declared deceased probably in a couple of years. But the fact that it has been very quiet, because according to some reports, the strike actually may have taken place during a shift change on the vessel, meaning that there could have been 2 shifts worth of sailors on board. So an absolutely brutal timing by the Ukrainian forces who launched this strike. Now, where in the front lines do you think these guys are going to get sent? Well, it seems like in the last couple of days, there have been 2 places where Russian forces have been going all out. And one is this area of Bodanivka. We've talked about it in other videos. And what I thought was interesting is that Ukrainian forces are effectively mounting a defense of this key terrain here, this high ground to the north of Bodanivka, so much so that Russian forces are just sort of forced to take ground here, which isn't on the way to anything, right? So again, imagine being one of these Crimean air defense commanders and going on brutal, vicious assaults in order to seize an empty field on the opposite direction of your target city. Just some real brilliant Russian tactical decision making here. I actually think what's more likely is that the Ukrainians are choosing to repel the Russian attacks that will actually gain meaningful ground and are simply allowing the Russians to expose themselves and take casualties to gain meaningless ground. You can see the same thing happening in Stepova. Russian forces from the 15th, and obviously all of these are supported by these assault groups. Blocked from taking any more territory in Stepova, but don't worry, Ukrainian forces allowed the Russian assault groups, again at tremendous cost, to seize what appears to be, an empty field and a tree line here, which is not near any village of any kind. So, rest in power to that farmer's empty field, guys. And the same thing happening in Vodiane. You can see here, right? Just absolutely zero value. And this is the kind of meaningful battles that these assault groups are likely going to be participating in. Anyway, guys, that the New Year's resolution, I have a lot of New Year's resolutions. I'm sure you do as well. Fitness, professional, personal, and I'm going to need a lot of energy to get them done. That's why I invented Strike Gum. This is it has all the caffeine of an energy drink, 90 milligrams, as much as a Red Bull or an Amp, and 100 milligrams of alpha GPC. But what it doesn't have is sugar. Each one of these pieces, 0 sugar. And, of course, 50% of the profits from this first production run support Ukrainian charities that benefit civilians. And, best of all, we're doing a New Year's sale. That's right. If all U.S. orders over $70 ship free, and international orders over $100 also ship free. So if you've been waiting for your chance to try Strike Gum, now is the time. Check us out, strikegum.com. Anyway, that is all I had for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And of course, as always, hit like and subscribe. I appreciate all you guys that have been doing it, that have been supporting me over on Combat Vet News. Of course, we've done the deep dives on the Battle of Bodanivka. Definitely a fascinating look. Check it out. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.